Right, let's get you into your top 5 takeaways from Sunday. Let's start with Sunday Night Football. We were there at Pittsburgh. And this Pittsburgh team, it's such an interesting group right now. The defense looks like it's championship built. They have playmakers, Claypool, Deontay Johnson on the outside, who are some young, exciting players. Big Ben back there is a question mark in and of himself. Where's your temperature with this Pittsburgh team right now coming out of Sunday night?
You know what? Just being there, you really got a chance to get a feel for the team. And playing against Big Ben when he was a rookie in 2004, and just seeing his career over the last decade, everything came so easy to Big Ben. And you watch him play now, and it's just like you hold your breath, and it's just like you get nervous every time he drops back. And when he's pump faking, he just doesn't see the field. He doesn't have the natural quick instincts like he used to, and they're just a different offense. And you look at this. I mean, I've never seen this happen to Big Ben. And he's barely moving to try to even get to the ball. I mean, look at this. This doesn't happen to Ben Roethlisberger, and this is something that it's just bad for him, man. And you can't rely on a defense every single week to bail you out. They're going to have to get production from Ben, and they're going to have to find a way to make this offensive line a lot better because they got a stud running back, and they're not going to be able to live with stuff like this coming from Big Ben. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, if they're gonna want to make this a playoff run, if they're gonna want to turn this thing into a playoff run, they're gonna have to get the duct tape out a little bit, because with Big Ben, you're just gonna be playing around some stuff and within some of his limitations. And one of those big ones is that he likes to be in the shotgun. Big Ben doesn't like to be under center. Sometimes even reaching handoffs is a challenge for him. Just trying to get that thing out there for like a stretch handoff, it is a full exercise for him to get there. That's why if you watch the Steelers play, they run more draws from shotgun to the running back than any team I've really ever seen. It's because Big Ben prefers to be back there. So what I would do a lot of is take Najee Harris, go 5 wide, put him in the slot, and match him up against linebackers, against safeties, and make 240 pounds with the speed and quickness and athleticism and hands that he has. Let that be an extension of your running game and your passing game too. I thought we saw a little bit of that in this Sunday night game, and my expectation is for that to continue because he is awesome playing receiver.
Same thing that we talked about Sunday night, and we were having that same conversation, and I said, how do you soften this defense? Well, you spread them out, and you get your running back involved too. He's an excellent wide receiver out of the backfield. He's leading your team in receptions. Just five, spread them out, empty formation. Now you let Big Ben. But the only thing that really concerns me about Big Ben, especially with the weather changing, we saw we went from 80, 90 degrees to all of a sudden we're in 50-degree weather. And then in the next month or so, we're going to be in 30 and 40-degree weather. Do you have any concern about Big Ben being as old as he is, being able to function in the cold weather? Because it's not getting any warmer.
Yeah, I got concerns about him functioning in any weather right now, if I'm being honest with you. He has to step into a throw. For him to really get what he wants to on a pass, he has to have space, the ability to step into it, and really put his whole body weight behind one. And then still, it doesn't look like what a Big Ben throw used to. But my big concern is that he used to be able to have guys draped off him and sort of one guy on his shoulder, and he stiff arms, and then he can still put some sauce on it to go get a first down. Where that's not a reality for him anymore. Like when somebody's on him or he has to do a big pump fake, it can fall out of his hands. There's just certain 40-year-old things that seem to be a pattern with his game that week after week we see. So that's why I'm saying they're going to have to come up with Band-Aids and duct tape to just call plays around Big Ben in this final year before, in my opinion, they go get a mobile running quarterback like the rest of the league has done. I think their adaptation is getting ready to happen this offseason. It's just a matter of duct taping it till then.
Yeah, if I were Mike Tomlin, I would start rotating my backup quarterback in and probably start giving him a couple series each game. Maybe a series or two in the first half, maybe a series or two in the second half, just to give Ben a little competition, but also give the backup quarterback a little bit more experience with the first group, just so in case something happens. But yeah, I mean, anytime you start sharing some reps with somebody, it should wake you up, and I think that'd be a great wake-up call for Big Ben.
Yeah, we both really like this Pat Freiermuth as well. It's the last guy I want to give a little love to before we move on, because he's this guy out of Penn State, Rod. I know you really liked him. He reminds me of like Heath Miller, Jason Witten, like just sort of that sure-handed, always open, always just sort of comfortable option for Big Ben. What'd you see from Freiermuth in particular? They even give him the move, the whole Heinz Field gives the full move, just like they used to do with Heath there when he would make a play.
Well, they're really excited about this young tight end, and he's very athletic. He's got good hands, and he can just make a difference. And you talk about Eric Ebron, a guy that's been so up and down, inconsistent in his career. But when you draft a guy like him, you can, like this kid Freiermuth, you can mold him to whatever you want him to mold him in. Yeah, he's going to have to continue to work on his blocking a little bit, but as a receiver, he's going to be outstanding. And like I told you when we were there Sunday night, this kid should get 5 or 6 targets every game.
Yeah, and he's working his way up to that. I think that's about what he had Sunday night. Let's get to your second takeaway. The Raiders, a very tough week that they had really away from the football field with their coach moving on. How were they able to keep a focused mind and go get a win?
Man, I was just so proud of the Raiders. I mean, think about your coach getting fired and you have to go through the whole media thing and the shock of a new coach and all these different things, and then you have to play a divisional team and a team that really knows you well. And how do you stay focused? It's leadership within that group. And that, I would say those veterans in that locker room, Derek Carr, probably got those guys together and said, look, guys, we can't control what's going on as far as the coaches, but we still have a job to do. We're getting paid handsomely to go out here and handle business. That's exactly what they did. I was so proud of the Raiders because I was like, okay, is this the same old Raiders? Because the same old Raiders would have came out, felt sorry for themselves, and would have ended up losing that game. And they didn't. They hung in there and they fought.
Yeah, I got to give some serious love to Derek Carr. I just think for Carr, this is a real leadership moment for him. This is one where he's got to step up and go, guys, this season's not over. I mean, this isn't a situation where our goals are behind. Every goal that we still have as the Las Vegas Raiders is still ahead of us, right? I mean, they can still do everything. Right. They can still chase a Super Bowl this year. So for him to refocus this group really is impressive. And I thought Carr had some awesome touch throws in this game. He's a quarterback. This is one right here. He just puts air under the football and gives his receivers a chance. The Ruggs touchdown, he did that on. There was another 3rd and 6 where he hit Edwards and just put an air under it. Look at how he just gives the receiver a chance. That time it's Waller coming across the field. Let me ask you a question. That's an impressive thing we see from Carr. Go ahead, Rod.
I was going to ask you, do you feel like, because you know how John Gruden is, he's such a hands-on coach. Do you feel like this might even free Carr up a little bit, where he doesn't have that guy on top of him criticizing him, being so critical of every little single thing? Because it looks like when he was out there, he was just slinging the ball. It looked easy. Whereas before with John Gruden, he's like, throws, and then he looks to the sideline to see if it's okay. This might even free him up a little bit. Who knows, Jack?
I agree with you because he's surrounded by talent now, Rod, in a way that he hasn't been for a long time there with the Raiders. I mean, he hasn't had this kind of talent his whole career, really. So you think about the defense that they have, the wide receivers that they have, Waller, Josh Jacobs coming out of the backfield. So now finally he's loaded with talent, and I just think Gruden was the hardest play caller, head coach for any quarterback to play with because he's so demanding and critical of every little mistake, and he's so sort of brash and huge about the way he'll sort of embarrass you if you do make a big mistake. So absolutely do I think this could be freeing for the mind of a guy like Carr. And it might very well, everything I've heard about this special teams coach coming in, it might be a good thing for him given what kind of personality this guy has and breathing that through to the whole roster.
Amen, man. Just, a special teams coach, he's kind of just loyal to everybody. He's not an offensive guy. He's not a defensive guy. And, you see him working with the special teams guys. And normally those are backup guys. And you have a lot of respect from the younger players and the backup guys. But also you see the veteran players always being a part of the special teams. So when he walks in right away, believe it or not, the special teams coach always have credibility because he deals with everybody. He deals with the offensive line, the defensive line, on field goal block, and all those different things. So good for him, man. That was a huge win against a divisional opponent.
Huge win. And Crosby, our guy Max Crosby, man, another mega game.
He's a
from
monster.
Him. 12 pressures. 3 sacks, 7 hurries. I was just going through the whole league. 43 total pressures he has on the year, leads the entire league. 25 quarterback hits, that's first in the NFL. 11 quarterback pressures, 25 hurries, 11 quarterback hits. So in every pass rushing statistic, he is first in the NFL. That's my defensive player of the year so far, Rodney. I don't think it's particularly close either. Crosby has been a monster this season.
That's not. How could you say something like that? How could you look at me in the face of a former defensive back in the National Football League and forget about that boy Diggs from the Dallas Cowboys? How can you forget about him? Do you understand how hard and difficult it is to play cornerback in the National Football League and have 7 picks and pick sixes? Come on, Jack. What's up with you, man? Ask your dad. Go ask your dad how difficult it is to play cornerback.
Oh, I believe it's darn difficult, and he's having a huge year, and he's coming up with all kinds of interceptions and pick sixes. It feels like every week, but I mean, this is somebody who's going up against Watt, J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, the best pass rushers, T.J. Watt, and week after week he is pulling away from him in every pass rush statistic. And he's some no-name. Nobody's talking about Crosby. He's not some superstar name we throw around. But week after week, he is producing like nobody else on the defensive interior. And so far for me, he's the guy. He is the guy.
Hey, I'm not mad at you, but I'm just telling you what Diggs is doing is unheard of. It's unreal what he's doing. Interception basically every single game and returning them for pick six. And just think about how the strategy affects the offense, because now you're pretty much limited to one side of the field. But, yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong. I love Crosby, the energy and the leadership that he's bringing. And you could tell, I mean, it's infectious. You see Casey Hayward, you see all the rest of these guys flying around making plays. I love it.
Speaking of an infectious personality, Najee Harris, Rod. We were on the field right after that Pittsburgh win, and Najee came out for that post-game interview. That's one of my favorite interviews I've ever been a part of, ever. I even want to go back to a little clip of it. Remember that Jamal Adams hit? We're like, we got to ask him about this Jamal Adams. He brought it up before we even brought it up to him. Let's run that clip. This is Najee Harris right after the win.
How did you use your full skill set to get this win tonight?
On the field, man, I tell you what. That's a good-ass defense, man. Hey, when Jamal Adams came and rung my bell.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that.
Hey, I just had to get up. Hey, good hit, man.
Is that what you game prep?
I went out there. That was a good hit. He said, yeah, I know.
Did you see him coming at all or no?
I saw him coming, but he got so low. I tried to meet him there. Man, rung my bell.
Talk about.
But that's the stuff I like right there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's real football. That's the football I like right there.
Hey, he said,
go ahead,
that's
Rod.
the stuff I like. Listen, he said, that's the stuff I like. He rang my bell. This dude loves it. Man, let me tell you something. It was so much fun. Just, we get a chance to talk to these young kids, man, and to see the personality and just see how humble and just how fun and full of the spirit he was, a guy that really, truly loves football. That's what I love about this game. It's not just the tackles and the big hits, but being able to spend time with young guys like that and just see how much, how good of young people they are. They're just good young people.
He is going to be a phenom up there in Pittsburgh, man. How long after that game did those fans hang out? They were chanting his name. It's like it's an overtime game. It's like 1 a.m. It's cold. It's, mid-October, late October, Pittsburgh cold. And they are chanting his name till about 1 o'clock in the morning. I just think his personality gives that backfield a little bit of Pittsburgh Steelers to it again. You know what I mean? Like, the offensive line's got 2 rookies up there. I think they have a lot more confidence in the running back coming out of the backfield than they do the offensive line. But it's bringing confidence into this whole group. And Jamal Adams, he's somebody you're real close with, Rod. You talked to him before the game. He had that huge shot right there that we were just talking about on Harris. How should they maybe adjust his role? What was some of the messaging coming out of that conversation you shared with him a week ago?
Well, we talked about it. You and I talked about it in the pregame show, and the fact that they were using him in the deep part of the field. And to me, if I got a Jamal Adams, I don't use him in the deep part of the field because you're really taking him away from what he does best, his strengths. His strengths is being around the line of scrimmage. Kid had 9.5 sacks last year as a defensive back. That's unheard of. The most I've ever had in one season was 6. He had 9.5. Put him close to the line of scrimmage where he's natural. So what I would do if I were the defensive coordinator, I would actually move Jalen Adams to linebacker next to Bobby Wagner. I would bring Ryan Neal in. He's a 6'3 safety. He's long. He can cover. You know, he can come down, he can be that extra box guy, he can cover tight ends, and now you got Jamal in the box where he's comfortable. Now you can create some one-on-one matchups. He can come off the end and go against running backs and tight ends, but I would definitely move Jalen Adams. I wouldn't have him in the deep part of the field because you negate or you take away what he does best, and Jalen Adams is a stud when he's around that box.
This is a really interesting point. I love that you are making this point, Rod, because Drew Tranquill did this with the Chargers, and it wound up really giving his career second life. He was a college safety and a thick one. He played big. He liked to play on his toes just like Jalen Adams does, and they moved him up to linebacker, and he went from being an okay, maybe below average cover safety to being an elite coverage linebacker. And I think the same thing would happen to Jalen Adams, because when he got up there, and he's 213, 215 pounds, but he plays like he's about 230, 235, right? Like you never see him getting moved around or bullied. Here's a good example right here as he goes ear hole right there of Najee Harris and the respect that Najee showed him. I think he is going to look like himself again if you start bringing him down in that box. He just looks so much more comfortable right there.
He does, and you know what we used to do with the Patriots, we played with 3 safeties, and I was actually the nickelback. But in our system, the nickelback had to cover the slot, so I had to go one-on-one against all these these guys like Hines Ward and all these other dudes. I had Reggie Wayne, I had to deal with in the slot. Where if you move him to linebacker, the thing that he'll probably have to worry about, maybe a tight end every now and then, but for the most part, a lot of backs coming out the backfield. And that's what you give him. So now he can just play free, he can play reckless, and he doesn't have to worry about the deep part of the field.
I like that a lot. Let's get to sort of the top of the AFC right now, right? So the Chargers get beat up. Buffalo loses to Tennessee. Are the Kansas City Chiefs, who just beat Washington, are they becoming a sleeping giant again as we're sort of looking at all these other teams that are emerging? Are we forgetting about the top dogs?
What I tell you earlier, I told you, don't forget about those Chiefs, man. One thing about the Chiefs, when you have a successful team and you've been to Super Bowls and stuff like that, you understand you're going to have some ups and downs, some inconsistencies. But this is a veteran team, and they have the most competitive guy in the National Football League in Patrick Mahomes. So you better believe he's going to get that team going. The defense will bounce back, get a couple more guys healthy. But don't forget about the Chiefs. They have everything you need from an offensive standpoint. They still have that veteran coaching staff. And you know Andy Reid, he is a very competitive coach. He's going to be right there in the mix. And plus, Eric Bieniemy's trying to find a job, too. He's trying to find a head coaching job. So these guys are all into it. Just don't forget about the Chiefs. And in 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be looking at me like, Rod, you told me not to forget about the Chiefs. Just watch out for the Chiefs.
Yeah, this season is such a marathon these days. With the extra game, doesn't it just feel like the season's – it feels like it's just one game they added. It feels like they added 10 games. It's just like this whole thing just feels like a marathon. So September football is just like, okay, these teams are still figuring out who the heck they are. October football, it's starting to get real. November, we're going to really figure out who the legit teams are. And I think you're already starting to see that process starting to play out a little bit. There's still some weird moments from Mahomes. Like I'm thinking about the one where he dropped the snap and then just sort of lobbed it up to like 5 Washington players. So there's still a few of those. The second interception was Tyreek right in the hands, which continues to happen. He put his hands right on it. Boom. Pops over his head for an easy interception. So I'm not as worried about that one as I am the one where he just lobbed it up to the middle of the defense. And the one guy I still want to see more of is Mecole Hardman. There's no Sammy Watkins, so Mecole Hardman has to step up as that number 3 playmaker. And he had another fumble this week, which was a big turnover and let Washington hang around in that game longer than they should.
Yeah, when you have fumbles and things like that, coaches start to lose trust and faith in you. And if they lose trust and faith, that means they're not going to give you the ball. So let's go to the next one.
Yeah. Let's get to the next one. The next one that we have is Jared Goff. Okay, so just give me your
That's
sentiment.
your boy.
Give me your message on Jared Goff. I'm not putting any words in your mouth on this one.
Well, Dan he's talking about Jared Goff needs to step up. He needs to play better. And I'm looking at Dan Jared Goff is who he is. He's average. He's an average quarterback, and that's the reason why Los Angeles was in such a rush to get rid of him. I mean, after they paid him the money, and when they actually paid him the money, everybody's looking like, they gave Jared Goff that type of money? Like, what's wrong with the Rams? Like, their general manager should be fired. So when he comes to Detroit, you think he's going to be a better quarterback? I mean, he had a perfect, ideal situation out there. He had one of the top defenses. He had one of the top young minds in all of football. He's got weapons all over the place. And look at him. He's 0-6. 0-6, 4 interceptions, 7 touchdowns. Jared Goff is who he is. He's an average quarterback that got paid, and he's laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, they are who we thought they were. That's kind of this reminds me of a little bit, right? I mean, it's like you ship him off there. You ship a guy off who was struggling in the perfect situation to a team that's in a complete and utter rebuild. I mean, this probably isn't even a 3-year rebuild. This is probably more the 5-year variety. I mean, this is going to take time. They don't have really any weapons that scare you other than maybe TJ Hawkinson. Defensively, they're bad. Mixon was running all over them. Jamar Chase was making the secondary look even worse. So there is all kinds of issues when you look at Detroit. Now, they've been tough. They've been competitive. They've been in games up to this Cincinnati game, so I'll at least give them love for that. But to expect Jared Goff to go to Detroit with this team and win is unrealistic. It's just unrealistic.
And think about it, like, if you're a free agent, Jack, you're not going to Detroit. Like, even if they try to overpay you a couple million, you're looking like, I don't want to go to Detroit, because at times you feel like when you lose, and I've been in a losing situation when I start off in San Diego, like when you lose, it takes the life out of you. And you feel like, well, it's not even really football. It's not fun to go to work, anything like that. So Jared Goff is who he is. He's just an average quarterback. And, you know, if they thought they were going to get Jared Goff and turn him into some Pro Bowl quarterback or the best quarterback in the NFC North, they were crazy. And that's what I mean about these teams. They get so desperate, they're willing to sell their souls for a quarterback, and you get this guy, and you know he's garbage. You know he is what he is.
I think the Rams just absolutely had to get the mistake of that contract off their books, right? So they had to get Goff out of there to go get what they believe to be their Super Bowl quarterback in Stafford. And the only team desperate enough to take that contract of Jared Goff was Detroit, as they are basically already a dumpster fire of a roster at this point. And this complete rebuild that we're referring to goes into progress. Is he going to be there by the end of it? I doubt it. Is he there right now? Yes. Is he going to have to struggle through this process? Yes. Do I feel bad for him? That's also a yes.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.